Hey guys, so considering the state of the world, I wanted to share a story or a couple stories, something that I observed in one of my life experiences. I call it the four signs of the apocalypse. Just for a little bit of fun and grandeur, but also how much what you can see and observe while working in an institution, but also in your own life as well. So, one of the rare circumstances I have is I actually worked at a business that went out of business, worked at a restaurant. And just kind of analyzing and watching the whole thing going down while I was living it was kind of fascinating to experience while looking back on it. And these four signs were a byproduct of that, because I was able to kind of witness the general flow of how a business degrades while it's trying to continue running and stay afloat. And I also recognize this, like you can use this in the state of your own life and also the state of the nation. So the first thing to go that I recognized was the cleanliness. That's the first sign. And just because a place is unclean doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go. But what I found is that usually what happens is, as it's more difficult to keep people on and the priorities get shifted, the first thing to go will be cleanliness, because you can always clean something eventually. You don't have to clean something right away. So, for example, at one of the places I worked, they actually stopped buying floor soap and just told us to use hot water instead. Because, they said that they switched, at first they switched to floor soap to degreaser. And then they told us to stop using degreaser because degreaser made the floor sticky. So they just told us to use floor soap. And it's really annoying when this happens, because a lot of places, if you ever wonder why a lot of places are dirty, half of the reason is probably because you have a lazy staff. But the other half is because you probably don't even have the staff to begin with. And when you're trying to prioritize keeping the place afloat, well, keeping the mess is a secondary thing. And there's only so many hours in the day and so much time to focus on. Now, the second thing to go was maintenance of the equipment. So this one was kind of interesting because, you have usually major equipment that you need to either cook the product or to keep it going. And those kind of things cost a lot of money, but they also can run for a very long time. One of the places I worked at, their air conditioner went down, and it took them 3 to 4 months to fix while it was in the middle of summertime. And during that time, we worked. So we would sweat the entire time. And this was in a restaurant, right? So this was in a building. We actually had people who would come into the store and be like, "Oh, your store is too hot. We can't work here," and then leave. And it was actually, and for us working there, when we had to work with ovens and everything, that just made it more complicated and just made it hotter. So yeah. The third thing to go was quality of the recipe or the food. So in a restaurant, there's a they want to maintain a specific recipe. And by maintaining that specific recipe, you can ensure that it's the same everywhere. But if a place is going out of business, and if they're struggling to get the funds, it's very easy for a business to swap out the necessary items for a cheaper substitute. One of the places I worked at, it used burger meat that was 25% brisket, 25% ham hock, I think, and then 50% actual burger meat. So it was a little higher quality. When we started going under, we actually were going to Walmart and Sam's Club and buying frozen burger patties. And remember, we were selling these burgers for like $10 a pop. So that was kind of fascinating to watch happen. And then lastly, the last thing to go is the paychecks, the money, the staff itself. And you gotta realize, initially it sounds crazy, but we had situations where at this place where checks started bouncing, and then not only that is that I got special intel that there was an APB put out by the police to all the banks to not check or cash out any of the checks by the owner because they were all just bouncing. And so it became an issue because, like, what do you do when you can no longer pay your staff, right? And so when I say, I might need a new term for it, but when I say that, like, the labor and the staff, I'm more talking about just you're actually affecting their own lives by them working there. And for here, this is a general trend because, it makes sense. Cleanliness will go. You can handle a little bit of dirt, or even if it's not a little bit, you can handle like a mess, but still produce food as long as people don't notice. Then maintenance, things will run on their own for a very long time. And then third, quality, you don't want to change the recipes. You don't want to change the perception that everything is falling apart. And fourth, actual living circumstances. When you hit that point, then you're probably starting to fall apart. Now, I call these the 4 signs, but just know that they don't necessarily have to go in order. You can have steps 3, 2, 1, 4, or 4, 2, 3, 1. It really depends on how the business wants to operate and how they go about it. So, for example, if a business is planning on laying off people specifically so that they can close, that will hit number 4 first before it hits number 1. Or, for example, like malls. I like using malls as an example because malls overall are dying. But malls usually will do number 3 first. Number 2 and 3. So, like, you go to a mall and they'll section off entire sections of the mall because there are no more stores in there. So they only allow you to walk in the busier sections. That's a quality measure. That they're trying to change the perception of how the mall looks to make it seem more full and more active, to give it a more impressionable experience. So that's actually number 3, a quality measure. And then, or laying off security personnel would be a number 2 measure, which is maintenance. So you want to keep things clean. You want to you want to keep the quality up, but instead you're deciding, you know what, maybe we need a little less security. We can do with one or two less security guards maintaining. So, and I think the reason why I think this is a good analogy, not just for how a business operates when it fails, but you can also expand this wider to and possibly a nation, or you can expand it smaller to your own personal life. With the nation, when I think about we've had a crumbling infrastructure for years, right? That would actually be cleanliness, right? But there are a lot of systems that can still run. But now we're hitting a point where the maintenance of maintaining those systems is starting to fall apart, right? People can't buy homes. The food prices are going up. Right now we're starting to hit point 3 where the quality of the goods that we desire is starting to go down, which is decreasing the quality of life. And we're touching. So we're starting to see the signs of point 4, right? We're touching point 3, and we're starting to envision the signs of point 4. And point 4 is where people's livelihoods are starting to actually be affected. In this case, right now, it would be the government shutdown with the SNAP benefits, right? What will life be like if they can ever get it back up and running? So, and then if we transpose it down to your own personal life, right? Are you keeping clean? Generally, if you stay clean, you have a more positive mindset, and that means if you have a more positive mindset, you're more actionable. Are you maintaining your own quality of life? Are you maintaining your own mental well-being, right? So does that mean, are you doing the things to help you de-stress? Are you doing the things to help you stay motivated and positive? Are you maintaining your relationships? Are you trying to heal, right? The maintenance part, those things affect you, right? Are you letting those slip so that you can keep going? Third, quality. Are you dipping down? Are you going for cheaper clothing so that you can maybe clothing isn't the best one. What's a good quality of life thing? I guess are you living in an environment that you are happy with, right? Did you choose to live in a cheaper apartment because you thought that would be more beneficial for you, right? That would be a quality thing. Or are things breaking apart? Like number 4, are you having panic attacks? Are you feeling depression? Do you see yourself living in the future, I guess? I think the 4 signs of the apocalypse. I don't think it's not going to be an exact measure, but I think it's a good general signpost that you can use to not just give yourself an idea of how the world is doing, but also give yourself an idea of how you are doing. Just to give a spot measure of okay, this is where everything is at. This is how everything is going. This is what we need to be sure, that we have everything in check. obviously there's a million specifics, but I guess to wrap it around, this was again something that I personally experienced while working at a restaurant that went out of business. I've worked in 15 years of food service. I worked at a restaurant that did $1 million in a month. And then I worked at a place that went out of business, right? And we broke every rule to try to stay afloat. Whereas I worked at Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A has some of the highest standards in the industry. So I've kind of seen both ends of how the restaurant industry works. But I'm also overly analytical, and I guess I tend to ramble. But I guess my hope is that by seeing this, it can help you have an idea of what you want to do with your life, how to maintain your life, and I guess how to give an idea of how to not fall apart. Because I think there are two methods of going through life. I guess two methods of trying to be successful, right? The most obvious one is you do all the steps to try to be successful. Unfortunately, life isn't fair and life is random. The second one is really important too, that not a lot of people think about, but it's also how not to fail. And I think that just watching the 4 Signs of the Apocalypse is a good general measure of where to see yourself possibly failing. And trying to, if you find yourself dipping, doing things to help yourself and recognize that you need to make some changes to try to stay afloat and keep going. I guess another thing as well is, sometimes failing is inevitable, right? And so you have to keep going. No matter what happens, you have to keep going. You have to find the answer to try to keep going. And yeah, again, I just think that this was something that I recognize that might be helpful for others. And it's also one of the metrics I use whenever I work at a job, and whenever I guess I'm observing the nation, right? Just because again, I experienced it. Fun, crazy stuff. Like, for example, there was one time I went to go help a new location, and when I got there, apparently the prep supervisor at the new location had opened up the safe and stolen all the cash. But I get why he did it, because they weren't getting paid. And so he was like, I want my paycheck. I'm just taking the money and going. So, yeah. Fun stuff. And it was also sad to see when it started going downhill, and when things started falling apart. Just the stress, just the anger, because people want to live. People don't need that added stress. And I really liked the job too until it started going downhill. So, in fact, what's funny is that if it hadn't gone the way that it did, I was slated to become a trainer, and they would have flown me out to a lot of different locations across the entire country. I was going to try to move up in the company too, but stuff happened. I ended up moving. But yeah, that would have again. Oh, I would have. If only. If only. I don't know. In that situation, I don't know what the right decision was. Would it have been better if I had stayed and risked them trying to reopen, or would it? I ended up moving. Was it better that I moved and tried to regain my grounds? I don't know. I don't know. That's it's one of those things where I think either at the time, either choice was like 50-50, and I went with the choice. And did it help me? That's a story for another time. Alright, I'm just rambling. Anyway, Force Hunting the Apocalypse. Cleanliness, maintenance, quality, and labor. Thank you guys for everything, and hope all is well.